Welcome to Hidden Reality. Imagine sharing a tiny windowless urine-soaked room with three other men and three massive horses. Or lowering yourself into a boiling hot communal bath, sharing stagnant, filthy water with hundreds of exhausted soldiers, completely devoid of drainage. This wasn't a punishment. This was daily life on the absolute edge of the known world. Forget the towering marble columns and pristine white togas of Rome. Today, we strip away the romanticized myths. We're diving into the gritty, fascinating, and deeply unsettling archaeological truths of Chester's Roman fort on Hadrian's Wall. The Earth has preserved shocking secrets about how men truly survived the harshest frontier nearly 2,000 years ago. Our journey into this hidden reality is broken into 5 parts. First, guarding the northern frontier. Second, inside the fort's headquarters. Third, the reality of Roman baths. Fourth, cramped quarters and cavalry. And finally, the dark secrets of the cult of Mithras. Section 1. Guarding the northern frontier. Picture stepping out of the untamed wilderness the Woman's called Barbaricum. You pass through a massive, double-arched gateway, seeking the safety of the empire. But safety here was a relative term. The Roman Empire was unfathomably massive, stretching across the sun-drenched Mediterranean and North Africa. Hadrian's Wall, however, was the absolute northern limit. Troops arriving here from hundreds of miles away faced a brutal shock. They traded warm stone cities for a bleak, freezing landscape, surviving in rudimentary wooden shantytowns battered by endless rain. Section 2. Inside the fort's headquarters. Moving deeper inside the fort, we reach the administrative heart. This was a massive, open courtyard where soldiers received their daily orders. But carved directly into the ancient stone is something that often surprises modern eyes: a phallus. Today, it might provoke a laugh. But to the Roman war machine, this was no joke. It was a vital, potent emblem of raw strength and good luck. Soldiers carved it into headquarters and even wore it on their belts to ward off death in a violent world. Beneath this courtyard lies the inner sanctum, a damp, heavily guarded underground vault. This strongroom held the legion's sacred standards, their pay, and the bloody spoils of war. When Victorian excavators finally breached this vault in 1801, they found the original wooden door remarkably intact. They expected unimaginable riches. Instead, they were bitterly disappointed, unearthing nothing more than a handful of scattered coins. The real treasure had vanished centuries ago. Section 3. The reality of Roman baths. Down by the riverbank lies the bathhouse. Prepare to leave your modern illusions of Roman luxury at the door. Bathing here was a grueling, extreme spatial ritual. A soldier navigated a gauntlet of shocking temperature shifts. From a freezing cold plunge to purify the body, they moved into a sweltering dry sauna and then an intensely suffocating steam room. Without soap, they slathered themselves in oil. Then, using a curved metal blade called a strigil, they violently scraped the grime and sweat from their skin. Powering this extreme environment was a masterclass in ancient engineering, the hypocaust. Slave-stoked furnaces pumped boiling air beneath elevated floors and through hollow walls. The heat was relentless. The stone floors became so dangerously scorching that soldiers were forced to wear thick wooden clogs just to avoid burning the flesh off their feet. But the true horror of the bathhouse is what happened in the water itself. Imagine hundreds of exhausted men, caked in frontier mud, blood, and sweat. Archaeological evidence reveals a disturbing truth. These massive communal tubs had absolutely no drainage holes. Soldiers sat tightly packed in a stagnant, festering soup of human filth. The water was rarely, if ever, changed. Yet, amidst this profound squalor, the baths were the pulsing social heart of the frontier. Archaeologists made a fascinating discovery right inside these steamy walls: an altar dedicated to Fortuna, the goddess of luck. These men weren't just here to get clean. They came to scheme, to share whispers of rebellion, and to recklessly gamble their meager pay away in the sweltering heat. Section 4. Cramped quarters and cavalry. If the public baths were crowded, the private sleeping quarters were a claustrophobic nightmare. Chester's was a cavalry fort driven by staggering inequality. A standard soldier lived in a tiny 2-part cell. 3 men slept in the back. Their 3 horses were stabled immediately in the front. Excavations have uncovered urine pits mere feet from where the soldier slept. Now contrast that horrific stench with the decorion, the commanding officer. He resided at the end of the very same block, enjoying a massive, luxurious, multi-room sanctuary entirely to himself. The logistics of this fort are almost incomprehensible. 500 men and 500 horses packed tightly into a freezing stone compound. But it reveals the breathtaking reach of the Roman machine. The men stationed in this mud-soaked British outpost were the second Asturians. They were originally pulled from the warm mountains of northern Spain. They lived cheek by jowl with their animals, thousands of miles from home, weaving a complex web of foreign languages and cultures on the edge of the world.
Section 5. The Cult of Mithras.
To truly grasp the psychology of these displaced soldiers, we must leave the fort entirely. The frontier was a massive, volatile melting pot of global religions. In this remote outpost, traditional Roman gods like Mars and Jupiter stood alongside exotic Egyptian deities like Isis. But deep in the shadows lurked something far more enigmatic, a Persian-inspired deity known as Mithras. The worship of Mithras was not a public affair. It was a mystery cult. This was a highly clandestine, underground society restricted exclusively to initiated men. It swept through the Roman military like wildfire. Once inside, soldiers were bound by terrifying oaths of absolute secrecy. What happened in the dark stayed in the dark. Their temple, the Mithraeum, was masterfully designed to induce psychological dread. Built long and narrow, it perfectly replicated a damp, claustrophobic underground cave. In the pitch black, illuminated only by flickering torches, soldiers left vivid offerings on stone altars. To ascend the cult's rigid hierarchy, men were subjected to perilous, physically exhausting, and mentally agonizing initiation rituals. They forged an unbreakable, secretive brotherhood in the deepest shadows of the empire. Hadrian's Wall was never just a physical barrier of stone. It was a living, breathing ecosystem of brilliant engineering, profound squalor, and dark, secretive faith. And the most thrilling part? 2 millennia later, the Earth is still surrendering its secrets. Every single modern excavation answers an ancient question, only to plunge us into a terrifying new mystery. We have witnessed the urine-soaked barracks, the festering baths, and the psychological torment of subterranean temples. If this is the unvarnished reality that the mud has already revealed, what other bizarre, shocking truths are still waiting quietly beneath the frontier? Subscribe to Hidden Reality for more incredible true stories and hidden realities from around the world.